is the Charlotte Hornets. They had the 10th seed. They finished 23 and 42. And for me, of course, LaMelo isn't the best player on the Hornets. He struggled so far in preseason, even though everybody wants to hype it up. But in my opinion, the Hornets are must-watch TV, just like the Wizards, because LaMelo brings buzz. Everybody has their eye on LaMelo. I'm not certain of this, but LaMelo might have more Instagram followers than the Hornets team Instagram. I mean, this guy is famous, as famous
Probably does.
as you can be. And they re-signed Bismack Biyombo. Of course, they signed Gordon Hayward to that massive contract. They lost Dwayne Bacon, Nicholas Batum, which is actually an addition for them by losing him. Hernan Gomez, their coach, James Borrego. He's a pretty good coach. And in the draft, he drafted LaMelo, Vernon Carey Jr., and Grant Riller. For me, I think LaMelo, he could easily start, but I can see a scenario, and I think it will be the case that he'll come off the bench. You start Terry, Devontae Graham, Gordon Hayward, PJ Washington, and Cody Zeller. You have LaMelo be your sixth man. Pair him up with Miles Bridges off the bench, Biombo. I like Jalen McDaniels' game as well. Cody Martin, Malik Monk is still there. Caleb Martin, Vernon Carey. I mean, they have a lot of depth. They have a lot of young pieces. But that being said, I just don't know where their ceiling is. I don't think they have a true star or superstar player. They don't have one at all. They just have a complement. They just have a bunch of players that are good that can complement one another. But I think in an East that has been stronger than the years past, I don't see this being enough to get into the playoffs unless LaMelo is like lights out in his rookie year, which I don't see that being. I think he's gonna take some time to develop.
I think this team is good enough to make the play-in. I like this team in the direction that it's going in. You have Terry Rozier, who's a good player, Devontae Graham, who broke out last year. He can be that dynamic scorer. LaMelo, I feel like they're going to groom him in, bring him in slowly. You have a scorer in Devontae and a playmaker in Terry Rozier. So that's going to help LaMelo get it going. And you've seen a lot in the preseason that LaMelo, he doesn't need to score to impact the game. So that's going to be good in their favor. Miles Bridges took a step last year. The Martin twins were solid guys coming off the bench. You've seen PJ Washington. He can be a 3-point sniper down the line. So this is a good team. Malik Monk got it going late in the season. So this is a good team with a lot of the guys I just named are all 25 and under at least. So bringing in Gordon Hayward, a veteran who's going to give you that 18, 5 and 5. This team is going to be good and fun to watch. They're not going to be the best team. They're not going to be the worst team. And I like the direction they're going in. They're going to be good enough where they're going to fight every night. And they're still going to have a draft composition, a lottery pick, and that's going to be good for them down the line. So I like this team going in. I think they can make a run for the bubble and the play-in, but I wouldn't be surprised if they pop out of it, but I still think they'll be competitive most nights.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way you guys do. I like to call them league pass teams. Like, this is a league pass team for me. This is a team I'm going to have my eyes on. I'm going to be watching because they're so intriguing. A lot of young talent, like Riv said, like you said, Joel, Devontae Graham, even Terry Rozier is not as young, but he's still a pretty young talent. PJ Washington, LaMelo, Miles Bridges, Malik Monk. And then you surround that, the Martin twins. You surround that with older guys like Bismack Biyombo, Gordon Hayward, Cody Zeller. And they're like the value market version of what you would want in a good team. And although I don't see them, like, they're another team that's on the outside looking in. They are the first team out of my third tier in the Eastern Conference, which is young teams that if everything goes right and a guy like LaMelo produces right away, I can see them sneaking in. They might need some help. I have them at 11, but I could see them getting up to like maybe 9 in a perfect scenario, but I could also see them falling back to like 13. So they're just one of those teams with, a lot of different outcomes could be possible for them this year. But I like the direction they're heading in. I didn't love the Gordon Hayward signing because I felt like it was a little misguided in what they were trying to do in developing that young talent, but he brings in a nice little veteran presence and gives them a chance to make the playing game this year. So I feel confident saying that they could be one of those sleeper playoff teams.
You know what? They're gonna be like the last year's Sacramento King. No, 2 years ago Sacramento Kings. They're gonna be fun to watch. exciting. They're going to compete with the Warriors. They're going to compete. They're going to compete with LA some nights. They're going to compete with the Bucks some nights. Now you're going to see a lot of competitive games from Charlotte against top teams. They're not going to always win them. Probably not going to win none of them. But you're going to see the fight and the dog in them.
Yeah, I mean, I think Charlotte is definitely going to be an exciting team. And LaMelo, you mentioned it. He doesn't have to score to impact the game. So does James Borrego say, you know what, let's get Terry Rozier off the bench and let's have LaMelo start because he's more of a natural playmaker? Do you go in that direction?
I think, yeah.
There are different directions that they can go in. Do you start Miles Bridges, who's looking like he's on a verge of a breakout season? PJ Washington is very good as well. So I don't know. They can go different ways. I mean, I think a fantasy lineup for me, which is not their starting lineup, but just like a fantasy lineup, would be LaMelo, Devontae Graham, Gordon Hayward, Miles Bridges, and PJ Washington. When they want to go small, that's the fantasy lineup.
I think that would be their fourth quarter lineup, honestly.
Yeah, you go small like that. You have LaMelo leading the charge in playmaking. But I agree with you what you guys said. I mean, they're a young team. They still don't have the talent to compete with those other teams that are in the playoffs, which is why I have them on the outside looking in. I think they'll finish with the 12th seed, but I can see them being as high as 8 and as low as 11 or 12. I don't think they fall below 12, but I have them finishing 12.
Yeah, and that lineup that you mentioned is what makes them so exciting. That lineup is must-see TV. Like, that's a really fun team to watch. You said LaMelo doesn't need to score to impact the game. His first preseason game, he didn't make a bucket, but he had 10 rebounds and 4 assists. So he's making his presence felt elsewhere. There's no question about that. And the scoring will come. Like, he's a natural baller. He's been playing basketball his whole life. We watched him every step of the way from with his brothers out in California, then Chino Hills, the overseas, and now here. He played with NBA players over in Australia that's in the NBL that said he was the best passer he ever played with. So, he's going to be fun to watch, and I'm excited to watch this team grow under James Borrego, who's trying to instill the right mentality in this team, and they're trending in the right direction for sure. I love this young talent they have, and I can't wait to watch them.
Yeah, I think I'll go with Joel's. I think I can realistically see them touching 8 seed, maybe 9 probably, and I can see them getting in the play, and I can see them dropping as 12 or 13, getting that low. I would probably roll out a LaMelo, Devontae Graham, Miles Bridges, PJ Washington, and Cody Zeller lineup to start. I think Terry Rozier could be a great 6-man of the year candidate, along with Malik Monk. You bring those 2 guys off the bench. That's a pretty dynamic scoring duo right off the bench. Not to mention you could bring in a Martin twin off the bench too, and Bismack Biyombo. But that would probably be my lineup: LaMelo, Graham, Bridges, PJ Washington, and then Cody Zeller.